Hello everyone and welcome to beautiful Japan for the second round of EGT3 Challenge Pro competition. My name's Justin Prince, alongside the booth for the second round of the campaign. It's Glenn Budd as we get ready to see which drivers can ride the momentum from the mountaintops of Bathurst and which drivers can bounce their way back here at Suzuka. Today's going to be an intriguing round, Glenn, because these drivers, for some, are coming off some rough performances. For others, plenty of speed showcased last time out.
Yeah, indeed. First round, a lot of drivers getting the cobwebs out, so to speak, and some great performances. But Suzuka, another opportunity to go for it.
Let's take a look first of all at the overall standings, where it was one Jonathan Bovine who dominated by a several second advantage over one Riley Shentag. Then it was Landry who rounded out the podium positions. In that one, Marc-Antoine Landry in particular. Ordon also showed some speed at some points, finishing fourth, and it was Racine rounding out the top five. Overall, 15 drivers able to score points in the overall standings.
Those top three to keep in mind will carry some balance of performance penalties, so to speak, into this round. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well.
It's going to be so critical to think about because these drivers will have some weight distribution to think about, and I'm curious in turn how the 99 handles that, because he's been described by some as an alien when it comes to his pace. He's won multiple championships in this series, and he started off with the momentum early, of course, and now has 30 extra kilograms as his grand prize.
Yeah, you know, when you get some of these drivers and they figure that out pretty quick. As you mentioned, he is an elite athlete in this in this platform, and I think he'll have it figured out.
20 kilograms for second place, by the way, is the weight penalty. 10 kilograms. He is third spot. Part of the custom BOP for this type of action. Also keep in mind, though, some of the drivers had a lot of attrition in the overall side, especially the pro class, because a few drivers, such as St. Ords in particular, great speed early, got involved in chaos in the second half of the race after the pit cycles.
Yeah, and that, you know, those pit cycles, a lot of those drivers with the strategy and using that pit cycle waited towards the very tail end of the race and might have caught a couple of them out.
So once more, in turn, let's look at the top 20 for those respective drivers. A very stacked pro side of competition with a lot of different manufacturers, I will say, represented in this series. That can be same said for the Pro-Am side, where it was one Izay who ended up coming away with the top points in the class. Then it was Levine who came home in second in the Pro-Am side. Rashad Rowdy out the top 3. And even this class had a bit of some topsy-turvy moments because several different leaders in this class, some by dominating fashion, and then the mountain claimed them.
Yes, it did. It was another one of those challenging races for some, as we mentioned, and you know, it's also the fact that they've got to not only worry about their own battle, but they've also got to try to be gentlemen drivers, if they will, and when those pro drivers are around them, factor that into the equation as well. And I saw, you know, a little bit of that action back and forth between the two divisions, where I've got my own race, but I also don't want to wreck their race.
One of the drivers to keep my eye on in turn to try and bounce back, drivers like Thibodeau. Also keeping an eye out, though, on drivers like Renier, who's shown speed on multiple different platforms. So 11th place was where he ended up at the mountaintops of Bathurst. And also some of the drivers outside the points, like Trepanier, had some good pace before attrition settled in. But as we were just talking about, the manufacturers, there's a good spread of them in both of the classes. For the Pro and the Pro-Am this season, plenty of balance from the BMWs, the McLarens, to the Lexus machines, to even some of the Aston Martins and Bentleys.
Great diversity in the cars, and they've done a really good job, I think, with the balance of performance. And it's one of those deals where which car do I have on which track? Because, as you know, Justin, some cars do work better than other cars, and I think they've done a great job in this series of trying to equalize things as best they can.
And in turn, Suzuka could bring some intriguing challenges compared to the last round, because elevation changes were a major play at Bathurst last time out, but this time It's an intriguing circuit that does feature a bit of a figure-8 layout. Let's talk about Suzuka, your opinions on this racetrack.
Oh, this is a great racetrack. I've always enjoyed this racetrack. Some real tricky, challenging setups to corners, and you can run through those S's right through to the Dunlop curve. It's just all around, I think, a good mix of everything you want. Not necessarily some super high speed straightaways, which might not play, which might help actually the Porsche drivers a bit in this race. But overall, I think a real challenging track and a lot of fun.
Especially amongst its 18 turns and 5.8 kilometers, 3.6 miles. It's the distance here at Suzuka, and it's going to be all intriguing to see how these drivers fare, whether in the first turn for the good passing opportunities, the Casio Triangle, the hairpin. I would almost circle in a danger spot as well, based on some of the history in the sims. Spoon curb is a danger spot you have to consider as well.
Yeah, it's a real balance getting into it, and then keeping the balance of the car through to the second part, turn 14. And as you know, that's one of those corners that leads onto a straightaway. And they always say, make sure you've got enough proper speed out of those corners that lead onto the longest straights. And that's one of them. So it's a real balance of control through 13, keep the throttle nice and steady, get nice and set up for 14, and then carry it down.
With that, let's take a lap. That's a beautiful look once more at a lap around Suzuka circuit as we now take a look into qualifying. Less than 22 minutes left to go on the clock. Take the time to remind you that EGT Canada action is presented by Porsche Quebec, along with the CTCC, along with Distillery Duquet. I'd like to thank them for their support of this competition and this respective series. And as qualifying gets underway, as you can see, 8:08 p.m. in sim time right now for the next 21 minutes. Fairly cool conditions at 18 degrees Celsius for the track and air temperature, and optimum track conditions as drivers set their qualifying times. We are looking at Pro-Am qualified right now, Glenn. And it's interesting to see how these drivers always turn out in qualifying and how they are in terms of picking up the tempo.
Yeah, and then, we've got a podium driver from the last race leading the way right now, Landry, who was a little bit further down, 9th overall in the finish of the last race, but showing the way right now, second on the, pardon me, he is 5th on the grid right now.
Trepanier Is currently at the top of the board for reference as we take a look over to number 13 on the pylon, 17 car on track. This is DeWart, who also showed some good pace in one of the ASR machines. Advanced Sim Racing, a big supporter when it comes to sim racing across Canada, especially with some of their performances at the higher levels the past couple of months and couple of years in iRacing and ACC in different various platforms.
I do like the transition and the way to do the qualifying with the nighttime, give the drivers an opportunity to really shine their skills in both daytime and nighttime conditions. It's pretty cool.
And of course, this is the first time for this series, for this season, that you're up in the booth with myself for this one. And Jeremy, you have a long history in motorsports. In fact, history with a very historic Canadian circuit. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park is part of a prestigious career.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me, and to tell you, just wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Involved in the sport is a great thing, Justin. You know, it's you yourself. You do a lot of different styles of racing, but you just this road racing is exciting.
Of course, experience at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the past decade plus. As we take a look at Gamache for Gamache Motorsport in the 588. 10th currently on the board. 2 minute flat around that mark is the fastest qualifying time. But look at the difference, though, between first and second. Alonso just within a couple 100s currently, with a few minutes left to go in Pro-Am qualifying.
Yeah, and even right down through the top 10, it's pretty tight.
So, as a driver, what would you be focusing on to make sure you get yourself within these marks for qualifying, making sure you're within that range to be able to try and set the pole time, to be able to get that track position?
Well, you know, these drivers, I mean, obviously with the cooler conditions, so I think right now, I don't think they're probably worrying too much about overheating tires in these nighttime conditions, but they're probably fuel strategy. You know, you do a light fuel load, perhaps, try to quicken the car as much as you can, and you've really got to hit your marks, especially on this track. You've really got to hit those marks, and at nighttime, I'm sure it's a lot more challenging to do that.
And the interesting thing compared to some other sims is with Suzuka Competition is there's a limit of 4 sets of tires for the whole race night. How that works is you have 4 sets for all of practice, qualifying, and the race. It's not like on some platforms where it's a tire set for only the race. That kind of adds that intrigue to on how many sets you're willing to use for a practice or a qualifying run. Do you double stint for the race? There's so much factored in on how you prepare for this type of event in turn.
Yeah, and I see that first round, that I don't even, were there even any tire changes in the race in that first round? I mean, there was obviously the mandatory fuel stops, but that was about it. And so you're right. Like, do you want to try a couple of hot runs with fresh tires and use them up in qualifying and see what you got for the race?
That's going to be the interesting thing. There is, you mentioned with the fuel mark, they have to put at least 1 liter of gasoline in during the pit stop. They can't just say, let's take a 1,000th of a gallon and run off to the races. Doesn't work that way. As these drivers have about a minute and a half to go, caution flags wave at portions of the racetrack as some pulling over. Keep in mind, the track map you see on the right-hand side of your screen, that is where drivers are actively across the circuit. The Suzuka Competition, for drivers who are not in their cars, they have this live track map where you'll be able to spot whenever a driver has an incident. If they have a yellow bubble, for example, the driver you're following along with the red bubbles, drivers in the pit lane are blue, drivers on circuit but not being followed on camera are gray, for those watching for the first time on the sim. But let's take a look at the Empestic.ca machine. This is the number 84. Once again, currently top of the class. Looking to try and build a little bit more of a buffer, has not been able to bump up past that 2-minute 2:62 to lead the Pro-Am side.
Yeah, Trepanier is doing a great job out there so far, and with about a little over 15 minutes to go, enough drivers on the racetrack and spread out enough, so nobody ever looks like they're really even trying to draft anybody right now. Everybody out there and running their own pace right now.
In Suzuka, you don't necessarily consider at times, though, a draft circuit. Yes, there's the last curve to the first corner, and maybe the backstretch after spoon curve into 130R. But it's more so a rhythm and technical circuit, if anything.
Exactly.
And that, in turn, makes it so important to know your braking marks and have the confidence to hit those said marks.
Right, exactly. Like we said just a few moments ago, you've really got to hit your marks at this track. It can be so challenging getting through those S's. You've just really got to make sure you've got the marks.
Just past 15 minutes to go in qualify, which means drivers for the Pro side have now gotten the go-ahead to come out of the pit lane. Pro-Am drivers will now take the checker flag for their respective session. See if anyone's able to bump up their times before the Pro drivers get to put their first times up the board. Remember, with these drivers, you may have a mixture of Pro-Am and Pro drivers mixed in terms of their time marks. And last time, the pole time kicked up an extra 2 to 3 seconds at Mount Panorama Circuit by the end of the qualifying once the Pro drivers finished their circuits.
Marshawn here trying to just crack into the top 3 if he can. Working that Lexus, we'll see
and he works
soon enough. Nope.
Works it straight into the pit lane.
Right in the pits, yep.
One driver's already an incident. That's the 223 with the yellow dot. That is Racine. But we follow along with the man who has that 30 kilograms extra bit of weight, but also is the defending race winner to start off the season. Provine trying to go back-to-back to start off the campaign in his Lexus for Advanced Sim Racing.
Yeah, he's obviously on the pace already, right out of the pits, trying to probably put down the lap as fast as he can while his tires are fresh and tell everybody, come on, come and get me.
Zipping on by to get himself into rhythm. Again, this is a part of the warm-up lap. Will be the first driver, in fact, for Pro Class to take a time. 432 is lined up right on behind him for reference. That is Bertois, who showed great speed in the past in this series. The defending champion, in fact, would be second in terms of this rhythm of pattern of drivers. Starting off qualifying now for the Pro drivers. The 99 is now on the clock.
And he has just a couple of cars behind, but just look at that track map. Look at the congestion out there as they start to sort themselves out and get ready for those flying laps.
And that's strategy in of itself, too, you have to consider, because do you want to have that draft factor? Do you want to deal with the potential of having to check up for somebody if you're quicker? There's so much that goes into even planning that out as a strategist and a driver.
That's right. Just hang back a little bit. Don't want to waste too much time in the pits, but do I let a group of cars go and have a good run, and or do I just go out with everybody and deal with it?
And remember, it takes a bit of time for some of the tires to warm up. Usually the sweet spot I've seen in the past, 2 to 3 laps into the tire set, is when the best times seem to really start to fly for most.
And I tell you, I do like what I see here with the 99 Boivins rhythm. He's just up over the rumble strips and just doing a really good job right now of planting that car around the racetrack.
Just a work of art to be able to watch him drive around Suzuka here in Japan, especially with the pops of the flames and some of the sparks actually kicking up from that back end, that purple and black machine.
One of the visuals that's pretty cool about the nighttime action.
You know what I also seen visually? He's gained a few car lengths in this lap alone from the driver right on behind. He's picked up 2 to 3 car lengths in the first couple sectors.
Yeah, and he's getting down to the last couple corners here. So in a moment's time, we'll see what that first lap is. Obviously expect it to be not too bad, but come down as he comes into lap 2 and 3.
End of the first lap, what time is put on the board? And how about pole? 1:59 to start things off, a 1:59.5, but it's an even quicker time. Bertois, despite losing a bit of ground there, still gets the faster of the times to start off the session. As the Pro times come in, the Pro-Am drivers get shuffled on down, most of them outside the top 10 now.
Yeah, that didn't take long at all. Look at that, a 1:59.5. just over 10 minutes to go in this qualifying session.
Here's the laps racing machine. This is Thomas Lavoie, meanwhile, the 20 car. 33rd, not yet setting a time. One of just a few yet to set a time in turn early. 9, make it 8, have yet to cross the line. This will be one of the final drivers, in fact, to be able to set a time the first time around. The last would be the 223 Racine, who crashed earlier in the session. Here's a look at Susie, meanwhile, 18th quickest in the BMW. In response, or will Lavoie cycle up at the end of that? 21st, and time to pick up 201 there, as here's Racine. Again, picked up that yellow marker coming out of Dunlop. The only driver to have a trouble spot during the warm-up laps for Team GTCQ. Racine showed speed last time out. He shows the 16th to start. So we take a look at Alvarez.
I'm sure Racine won't be too happy with that run. I'm sure he's going to try to do what he can, obviously, this next lap.
Still plenty of time to bounce back, indeed, as we take a look at the S05R car machine back to Provine. Real quickly has already ended off his second time. Can he rip the pole back? Third coming into that lap. Can't bump it up. Only picks up a few tenths, though.
Yeah, just...
and look at that. Half a second back now because Bourgeois picks up even more time.
Yeah, he just clocked in that 159.157.
There's a reason he's defending champion, right? And backing up that speed after the top 5 run last time out.
And there you go. We talk about the Porsches perhaps having a bit of an advantage on this this circuit without the long straightaways. And is that the situation right now?
It's Porsche, Lexus, BMW, Lexus. Inside the top 5, all the top 10 now is pro drivers. Grenier, similar to last time out of the Pro-Ams, the highest Pro-Am ranked driver in qualifying by 2/100ths of a second. Here's a look, David Boulanger with Orion E-Racing. And I've always found seeing how the Bentleys perform intriguing, because they were fairly grouped together in the last race at Bathurst. Some of them did show good speed in the top 10, though.
Yeah, just hanging on to that top 10 qualifying right now. Just a little over a second off the pole time.
Here's a look now at Eddie Mayer, who is in that second spot. And a little bit slippery there. Just a bit of a slide coming out of Spoon Curb. Wonder if it's starting to build up some of the rubber in turn that's causing some of this loose feeling for some of the drivers, maybe.
Yeah, and Spoon Curve is another one of those tricky ones where you got to balance that between two high speed. Coming into it as a high speed part of that racetrack, and then you got to whoa down just a little bit more to get out of that short chute onto towards the hairpin. So just a little bit, perhaps, of a little challenge for him, which we talked about. Just that balance through that section of the racetrack.
Looks like he is done for qualifying, at least for that portion of it, as he pulls the side within 1/100th of a tenth of a second, though, for Mayer should say. As Solomon we take a look at in the 7th position. Back over to the Art of Car Machine. That car is a very nice looking picture of art. As Alvarez, will that lap be a work of art? A 5th best run for the Bentley.
Good showing by the manufacturers, Porsche, Lexus, BMW, and now Bentley in the top 5. 6 minutes remain.
One thing I've always found intriguing in turn is the name, I will say, for last but Lax. Their drivers have not been anywhere near last so far this season. So, much worse pace than their name insists upon with that group powered by RST. So move away with Salman. Here is Shenteg, only 9th best right now after a 2nd best run last time at Bathurst in the race. Check the 10th now.
Yeah, that's that. Shenteg just dropped to 10th.
You have to wonder, maybe it's a bit of the weight, but also the manufacturer maybe factor in. He is in a McLaren here. Yeah, just take a look at how much wheel he's having to chug along with some of the tightness and spoon curve.
A little correction, the wheel there up over the rumble strips, and then he'll carry that speed down to corner 15. .020 seconds off the pole time currently, down to under 5 minutes to go in qualifying. In sim time, just past 8:25 p.m. Shentag looking to try and get towards where he started last time out. Needs a full second up. Highest ranking McLaren currently higher up on the bank exit. And Shentag, where will the time cycle through? 7th best. He's happy with that one at least. And I'm curious on the difference of exits here. The last curve I've noticed, some drivers want to take it tight to the inside, some going straight hard to the outside, I've seen. Yeah, that's, that combination, I'm not sure if there's a right or wrong. I got to tell you, Justin, it is a tricky combination, and it could just be the way your car feels and how comfortable you are getting through there.
Take a look at Thomas Lavoie, meanwhile, in one more of the Lexus machines. 13th best coming into this lap time around. Coming out of that, only 12th best to move on up. Solomon in response with under 4 minutes to work with. We end up keeping on going, yes. 5th best for Solomon, though, only half a second back of Bourdalois.
Half a second, and now you've got Porsche, 3 of the top 5 in qualifying here. Lexus and BMW still hanging in there with the 3rd and 4th on the grid right now.
Give credit to the one Ferrari inside the whole top 10, though.
Yeah.
Dubé holding on strong on that, and the only other Ferrari inside the top 30 is in 15th, second best Pro-Am. Here's a look, number 19 on the board. This is the 142 on track once again. This is Fultz Rushlow. And I find intriguingly the BMWs as a mistake there causes him to tow here. But the BMW side of things, I will say, one of the main discussion points, at least in some of the various platforms in the Sims, are that BMW in particular, the newest iteration, had been designed to try and not be BOP'd. Unfortunately, the rear-wheel manufacturer struggled at Daytona at the 24 hours this year.
Yeah, they did, and the M4s. Some would think that the M4s and the McLarens have a slight advantage, but you're right. That didn't hold true come the 24-hour.
And with 2 minutes to go on the board, you mentioned the strength of the Porsches. Are there any manufacturers outside of Porsche you feel this could benefit in terms of a track like this, especially seeing the differences on the board here in terms of manufacturers inside the top 10?
I'm kind of wondering. I mean, obviously we have the Lexus in the 3rd, and that's the one that I was thinking of next in line was the Lexus.
Mm-hmm.
It's a front engine car, but I think I think they just might show what they've got here again at Suzuka.
Here is Mador, meanwhile, quiet run for him in qualifying so far. 9th best coming into that lap, stays 9th. So we take a look once more at Moisan. 4th best into the lap, 2nd best on the board, within a couple 100ths of the pole.
Moisan separates the Porsches and gets on the front row.
What did I say about the BMW?
There you go.
On the sim, it's quick. Let's put it that way. Put in a lot of investment, BMW, in their esports programs, I will say. As we take a look once more at Bourdon and McLaren.
It tells you a lot about what the manufacturers take out of the sim racing and how much the virtual world means to them if they put that much effort into their cars and have results like that. This is serious stuff for them.
And for many, keep in mind as well, it's their best outlet to be able to get on the track for some cases for those who may not have access to a real-world track or may not have the financial beneficiaries to be able to make it to said track. It takes a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
And to be in the best in the sim even, it takes a lot of work, and even then, a lot of preparation like you would have in the real world to battle on as we get towards the end of qualifying.
Yeah, clock's at zeros.
So drivers will have up to 3 minutes to finish up their current lap times to take the checkered flag. Currently, the pole sitter is still Bourdois. After his very quick laps early on, 3 laps in total were put on the board.
Yeah, watching Landry right now, but what do you think? Are we going to see BMW steal the pole? I didn't see if he backed off after that lap, or he's still out there running hot.
I am noticing, though, a Lexus out there, the 99 is still going hot. Landry in the Lamborghini not able to bump up the time. Here's one of the Lexus machines. This is Lavoie. But the other I'm looking at is that other dot. You see him all the way in Spoon Curve? Yes, that is the number 99. That is Bovine, who is trying to bump his way on up. He needs a 1/10 and a half to get the pole. What the 99 is, we'll see if he elects to try and take the attempt with about 1 minute and 50 seconds to work with. And the answer appears to be no. Very productive qualifying session, but in turn a different pole sitter to start off race 2 of the campaign. Your thoughts, Glenn, on how qualifying turned out here under the lights as these drivers get ready to hit to the racetrack as we head back to it to double check on that positioning with the 99, it appears. This will be the last driver now, and as expected, no change. So to that point in regards to that.
Yeah, I think he'll be happy with that. Still, he's on the second row, but I think no surprise. I felt that the Porsches were going to be quick in this session, and as you mentioned, the BMWs do seem to have a bit of a slight advantage in the sim world. So I think we're right where we expected to see things.
And I'm very curious to see how these drivers in turn react to this type of racetrack. With the speeds we've seen so far this season, it's going to be an intriguing campaign, I will say, because to touch a bit upon the racetracks, you have Zolder coming up, for example. You have other circuits such as Spa, Laguna Seca, Barcelona. It's a diverse schedule, and tracks like this could be critical, especially knowing the pattern later on. And as we take a look at qualifying, starting with the best of the Pro-Am drivers, it was Trepanier who set the best time in the Pro-Am class by 2 100ths over Alasson. In that regard, meanwhile, the drivers for the pro side, all led by one driver by the name of Bourdois, after his respective time was about 2 seconds quicker in the end there, Glenn.
Yeah, he put down a great lap. There's no question about that, and I think you'll see that carry on right into the race.
So drivers just a few moments away from the grid. Here's a look at the overall top 15. In fact, 5 100ths the difference. 0.55 in fact, with one Moiswan in right on behind. Then it was Mayer, Moivine, was Salomon rounding out the top 5. Quietly under the radar in one of the Mercedes, that is St. Ors, who was 7/10 of a second back, but 6th. Fedor, Alvarez, Shente, the top 9, and Dubé finished in 10th. Highest ranked Ferrari. Bourdon finished in 11th in qualifying. Lavoie, Boulanger finished in 13th from the pro side. Then it was Landry and Trepanier. The highest ranking Pro-Am competitor rounded out the top 15, 1.1 seconds from 1st to 15th there, Glenn.
Yeah, it's going to be a good race, and again, a good mix of manufacturers. And like you mentioned, we didn't talk much about that Mercedes, but as you mentioned, just slipped in there in the 6th spot, just trying to creep into the top 5 there.
Interestingly enough, the Mercedes, just a few drivers run with that car in this series this season. 2, 1 per class for reference. As the drivers have made their way to the starting grid, 4 minutes of preparations on the clock. In sim time for the start is 2 p.m. 1 hour will be on the race clock in of itself. Temperatures, 23 degrees Celsius is the air temperature, 31 degrees Celsius the track temperature. Fairly hot out there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes for tire wear.
Let's walk through the grid once more to talk on 3. Through, as mentioned, the pole sitter for this one, Bourdois. Then you have Moisson. Then you have Mayer, Salomon. Boivin amongst the top 5 drivers. St. Ors is inside the top 6, the highest ranking Mercedes, that blue one to the right. Keep in mind, Mador, Alvarez, Shentag, Dubé, the top 10, with that very diverse lineup of manufacturers. And the thing is, too, with the Pro-Am side, that's going to be critical point-wise, because 15th and 16th overall. First and second in the class, they have about a 2-row buffer to the next cars in the grouping.
They do, indeed.
And that's going to be critical to make sure, you're able to break away possibly if you're able to stay out of trouble.
They're going to be trying to work that advantage as best they can. There is no question about it. I think they're sitting pretty. Just got to stay out of trouble. I mean, as we know, going those first couple of corners, especially on a tighter circuit with those S's coming up just after the first couple of corners, you've really got to hope that everybody settles down and gets through that first lap.
So, what do you feel the drivers could be adjusting in terms of their preparations? What do you, based on your experience, know some of these drivers are thinking about right before they get going off the starting grid to prepare for the green flag in of itself?
I think just exactly that. They're aware of where they are and how tight those first couple of corners will be. I mean, they want to get through the snake as clean as possible, and that's the key. I think is just getting everybody settled into a single file, because I don't think you can get too crazy through the snake and have a couple of cars, 3 cars wide through there and expect to come out the other end okay. So I think through their minds is to just try to settle down, get a pace going as quick and settled in as they can.
I find it interesting with this walkthrough too, just some of the differences in some of the ride heights and also placements. Part of that is with the way the sim can be, but some of them, maybe some of the differences in terms of driver preferences on what they want their car to be like when they get racing to full speed maybe.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you also, great liveries.
Lots of beautiful looking liveries here on the racetrack. About a minute to go until these drivers expect to get rolling here for the 1 hour on the clock. Your keys to victory here at Suzuka, first of all. Glenn.
Oh, sorry. It was, I think the keys to victory, again, getting through that first lap. I think strategy, again, that fuel stop, when you're going to do that. We watched that play out in the first race where a lot of the drivers waited towards the tail end of the race. So I think that might be one of the keys of strategy here. Do you want to pit early? Do you have a light load in your car? Do you have a full load right now and you're going to carry that distance? The BOP added to those top 3, that's going to be a factor for them in tire wear early if they have a full load of fuel. So I think the keys of the strategy are going to be on a short circuit, a tighter circuit, is some tire wear on a hot day.
Down to the final few moments of preparations for the session start, as all the drivers have made their way just about to the starting grid after 10 minutes plus as we get ready to get things rolling here for today's action. Here is the view from inside Bourdois as they will begin the rolling pace lap before we get things rolling for the green flag.
Trying to build a little heat into those tires as you see the drivers weaving back and forth across the racetrack.
Tire heat's going to be so critical to consider too, because cold tires, not a great thing to deal with, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and you can see that the great aerial shot there. Can you see as I talk about that snake? Those S's aren't too forgiving to try to go through their double file, especially on those cold tires at the start of the race. So you get a good view of that in this aerial shot. Really fast coming to this first corner as well, and then that little bit of short shoot. But you're basically turning and braking, getting ready for that second turn, and coming hard onto the brakes. As a matter of fact, probably down to maybe even about third gear, perhaps. I think through that second corner, and accelerating out of there into the snake.
Based on what you've seen, based on qualifying with past experience for some of the drivers, as well as knowing how things fared out at Bathurst, who do you feel will be the drivers to watch, knowing how some of them finished off the round, but others trying to carry momentum, as talked about?
Yeah, I think exactly. I think momentum is on certainly on the side of the guy that seems to be unstoppable, but Boivin in the 99. But I'll tell you what, I think some people in qualifying put notice that they're in this to win it, and I think your top three in both categories, the Pro-Am, are going to stay at the top of the ranks here.
Take a look as they make their way, some of them through Degner, approaching the hairpin this time. And that's going to be also a critical thing to mention. We've seen it with the track map and discussed it earlier with the danger zones. That run from Degner, for example, could be very treacherous off the start. That run from the hairpin towards 200R in turn, also critical before you hit the spoon.
Oh, and it is a challenging part of the racetrack, no question about it. If you don't get Degner right, you can be off the outside of that racetrack, and you got that bridge there. You got to get back in as quick as possible, but get yourself settled in, because the hairpin's going to be right there as we watch them just coming back to the back straight now.
Final thoughts before we take the green flag. We're about 20 seconds away from the start of the clock.
I'm excited. This is round 2, and we've got a great season ahead, and I think these drivers are some of the best in the business, and I'm really excited to be a part of this race. I'm sure that these drivers are going to put everything into it, as you know they do. It's a bunch of pro drivers. There's no question about it. Pro and Pro-Am drivers. They're great.
Some of the best in the country, some of the best when it comes to ACC competition, are all set for round number 2 of EGT3 Challenge Pro competition. Last but relaxed, powered by RSTs. Eric Bourdois in control of the field. One more time to the Casio triangle through the pacing speeds. But the green flag waits up on the stand. The fans showing their support with their own green flags. But the one driver who waits for the official green flag is this one. All set to go. Down the front straightaway, Bourdois in control of the field. To the start zone they go. And for the second time this season, EGT3 Challenge Pro competition will be green. It's green from Suzuka.
Oh, a good jump by the pole sitter.
Great launch up to the corner, near 3 wide behind. Bourdois, though, able to get single file side by side, several rows deep to the first corner, heading towards the snake.
Bourdois exactly where he wanted to be. He had a great jump, puts a couple of car lengths between himself and Moissan, and he's just going to be carrying that through the snake as everybody's now settling in single file through the snake.
A little bit of mistake, in fact, going through there. That is Mayer with a bit of a slow up for third spot. Boivin trying to dive underneath. Boivin to the inside on the left side. Trying to make his way towards Degner.
Yeah, Boivin's going to try the crossover there. Oh, did he just make a little bit of contact? Couldn't quite tell right there.
Very close
leading
call.
up towards a hairpin. Yeah, it was, as they're going to snake down here through into the hairpin now. Hard on the brakes. Down into first gear.
Very slow rolling corner. No mistakes from anybody so far. No yellow markers. Difference from the earlier round where there was a couple with attrition early on. 7th position sees Medord. He's fighting for 6th on track. Oh, a big mistake. That's St. Ors who goes wide. That costs him 6th position. And the 96 starting to make mistakes similar to the last round early this time.
Oh, and Medord just says, thank you very much. Open up the 6th spot for me. Down that back straight. Now we'll see if St. Ors can do anything to reclaim that position, but it's going to be single file through this part of the racetrack, no question about it. You don't want to try anything through those Casio triangles. That is a really tight last part of the racetrack.
And some of that battling, some of the mistakes have cost them a bit of time to the rest of the race leaders, but at the end of the first lap, Bourdois holds on stationary in front. Mayer still within the top 3. Boivin losing a bit of ground, though, with Salomon in 5th to start off the opening lap. Of note, a couple drivers are shuffling on the pylon. Shentag is amongst them. 2 to 3 different drivers pitting in the opening lap, in fact.
Yeah, that's some interesting strategy. So, were they light on fuel, and are they just topping up with that 1 liter right now?
That's going to be the interesting mark again. Suzuki also in the pit lane amongst those charging on in. Several of the pro drivers taking the early pit call. Still keep an eye, though, on the racetrack and the battle for position. In turn, Van has been able to close right back up on the 991 for the second time, is looking to pass him.
Good run off the corner. You can see everybody just running up over those rumble strips. Get back onto the track nice and smooth. Good driving through this part of the racetrack by everybody.
And most of the drivers completing their service. Some of them lengthy pit stops, I've noticed, though. The 16 is still stuck in their pit stall, for example. So a few drivers taking a lot of time to fill up the fuel tanks. Keep in mind, the mileage can be a bit tight here at Suzuka to be able to make it a full hour with this class of car. Still Mayer. Bit of a bad run coming out of Spoon. Here comes the run for the 99. Mayer already going defensive. Then forced to go the long way around a 130R. Can he make it work? Yes.
Wow, Boivin, what a drive around the outside. Picks up the position.
Now trying to regroup to be able to gather. So back up to the top 2 have picked up some ground as a result of that one. Note St. Ors and Alvarez also staying within the draft. Meanwhile, in the midst of the Hornet's Nest, here's Campos. Edmundo Campos, a quiet run so far.
Yeah, holding his own, you know what, and everything looking pretty good with that race car right now.
What just happened in the backdrop there? Someone just smacked in the pit wall.
Just out of the corner of the eye, I caught that.
I believe that was the 988. That was Awari, who just smacked into the Armco barrier. We'll have to see if we get a chance to look at what happened there, but I'm not sure how that would have come to be. Big chaos, meanwhile, at 20th.
Little front end damage to the Castle car there. The hood is skew, and we saw that one car off the racetrack. Have to get a number on who that was.
Absolute calamity this time in the Snake. Through Dunlop, and that nose is scraping. That's not going to be good for Marchand at all after such a successful first round. Heavy damage in race 2.
Yeah, Marchand is dropping down through the order now.
Oh, he's hit somebody. I believe that might have been Boyer who may have been involved. No, it was Campos, in fact.
Campos. Yeah, Marchand just got to the inside, and did Campos just not see him there? And it went to turn in. You know, it was his corner, and they came together.
A very tough break there.
See.
And I was about to say, it's also hard to turn the car when your nose is kind of digging into the ground, though. You have to give that benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
We'll see if we get a chance to look at some of the incidents. The incidents in attrition decided to wait a lap to lap 2 today, instead of the lap 1 curse, apparently. Here's a look at one of the replays, and this is the big incident of the day. What in the world? that was not even in the corner yet.
No, that wasn't even Marchand's fault. It looked like he just got, all of a sudden it looked like a car just turned to the right on him and into the side of his car.
So at least several drivers significant damage from that, several spin off the track from it. And we look at the battle for third meanwhile. Levan has lost 1.4 seconds to the race leader and is now leading the second train. They're all clipping the grass in the midst of this. Solomon is trying to find a way around.
Hey, and guess what? We still have 53 minutes to go.
They're racing like there's 3 minutes to go based on what we've seen.
Exactly.
We'll say this. Outside of the craziness for 20th, no major dive bombs yet. Keyword yet.
No, yet. And Pro-Am drivers starting to make their way up a little bit as well. I've been watching the leaderboard there, and now the 45 up to 9th place now.
Jan Belalson, in particular, has been able to pass on by Japanier, part of some of the craziness we just seen on the track moments ago, helping that. They're only a few seconds behind the overall race leaders, too. So the 45 and the 84 looking quick so far. Bit of a duck out that time, no pass attempt. Here's the look from Mayer.
Great view out of the back of his car there. Someone really closing in on a braking.
And they racing machine. Picking up some great ground. Good exit through the Castiel Triangle.
You know, I think you're, and there again, perhaps that great braking performance on this track by the Porsche, as Salomon was able to close in on Mayer there, but obviously coming off the corner that stretches back out again. But you could really get a good view of the braking capabilities of those cars in that rear view shot out of Mayer's car.
I think too, on top of things, you have to consider though the driving talent is so critical to be able to know that braking mark. It's so much that you need to have a lot of confidence. Confidence is such a big part of being able to know you can stick it in there. You have no confidence to hit that brake mark, you're probably sailing into the middle of the Castiel Triangle to Narnia. About 9 minutes in. Go ahead.
Yep. No, I just said looking at the track map, as you mentioned that with the 9-minute mark, just how spread out the field is, and when will we maybe start to see some lap traffic come into play here? They're really starting to spread out around the racetrack.
Well, at Bathurst, lap traffic came into a play for some of the battles noticed around 20-30 minutes to go. Partly because there was a lot of attrition there. Might be a bit longer today based on some of the lap times we're seeing and some of the track markers in turn. Although I believe we just seen a marshal maybe pop up a blue flag for a second.
Yeah, marshal's critical around the racetrack. Drivers have to keep their eye not only on the battle in front and behind them, but at the flags as well.
You know why? Remember the car with damage?
Oh, yes.
It's right in the mix of that.
There you go.
Meanwhile, Marc-Antoine Landry getting to a bit of a scrap. This is for 23rd, interclass traffic, in fact. Duclos is trying to hold on to this in front of the supersonic car. Oh, and something happened now in the last sector, the 96. And St. Ors has had another problem. Keeping an eye on the battle for 23rd as Landry drives on by with a good exit down the backstretch. They'll pass right on by St. Ors, though, possibly at the side of the road.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a view of what happened to St. Ors there.
Oh, and St.
Tough break.
St. Ors trying to rejoin right in front of them, in fact, as we take a look at Medor. I believe they found a way around some of the traffic. Remember, that was the machine dragging the front nose before, just moments ago. And Marchand.
Yeah, Medor up to 6th overall. Battle in class as well as the top 7 are Pro Class cars.
Let's take a look at the replay, and this is what, intriguing to see about. Wow, clipped a bit of the curb coming in.
Yeah. Oh, just upset the balance of the car and almost clipped that car on his way back across the racetrack. Tough break.
That was one of the Bentleys. That was Alvarez in particular in the battle for 7th. And that is why I'm saying Ur's second straight round, second straight oh no. And despite the difference nighttime and daytime, the trend continues. Corner exit seems to be a major bubble spot for all the drivers, especially going out of Spoon Curve as we take a look at another one of the advanced sim racing machines in 19. And as a driver, how would you try and adjust to that to try and make sure you don't have that major snap to the point where you make a mistake?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, again, I think it's early in the race, so I can't imagine there's too much in the way of heat, tire fade, brake fade. So I think all you can do is really, settle yourself in. Maybe there's having some brake balance issues and change the brake balance perhaps on the car to settle the car down a little bit more. But yeah, really early in the race still.
Speaking of bump at the front, meanwhile, Portwalk continues to lead, 0.7 of a second advantage. But look who has the purple lap. It's Moizon who has that at the moment. Speaking of looking back, looking moments ago, has a Bentley that's hungry to gain a spot. Looking to the inside, into the first corner, not able to get there.
Yeah, has to give it up. And that's where you see, that's exactly where that is a fast entry into turn 1, and then you got to really get hard on the brakes to get woed down for corner 2 before you work through that snake. I mentioned that before. It is a tricky part of the racetrack. It's a great racetrack. A lot of fun rotating back and forth. It's a really cool track to drive.
Or, by the way, this lap has had to come into the pit lane. That's why you see him mowing down the pylon, just crossed the scoring loop for the start and finish line. That would drop him way behind those who took the early pit stop call. And this is similar to what you would expect to see. You'd have to think, Glenn, in terms of the rhythm of the race. You get to these small groupings. In some cases, it takes a couple hours. Today, it takes just 14 minutes so far with the trend of the race.
Yeah, and I don't think, you don't want to probably deviate from your strategy too much. But let's say you're mired in a bunch of traffic, a gaggle of cars, and gosh, the only way out of this is maybe to do that mandatory pit stop. But then that may upset the rhythm that you had planned for the race and the strategy you had for the race. Maybe you can't because of your fuel load, right? But I mean, sometimes it just gets so frustrating too if you're in a pack of cars and you just can't seem to go anywhere.
Well, Yay trying to pull off and away. Meanwhile, in the Pro-Am class, competitors currently inside the top 10 for the class. This is for class positioning. Keep in mind, 18th overall. And this Lexus just right there. Seen the Bentley try to go deeper in the brakes, just about pulled the same amount of distance regardless coming off.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, and I wish I had it at the top of my head, but the weight difference between those two cars under the braking zone, I wonder, what factor that might be, because I would have assumed that the Bentley and the Lexus are relatively the same weight car. Maybe the Bentley a bit heavier?
I will say, Beaudry has a lot of confidence into their braking zone, gained some of the time back, but the Lexus has been able to stretch it back on the exits of some corners. Looking back in 32nd, they will have a driver they will pass on by. You may have noticed falling down the pylon was a pit stop for the 588. Maybe once they'll schedule for the early window inside the estimated fuel mark to make it to the end.
A lot of early pit stops down through the back half of the field.
Appellini stop and go, 30 seconds. Gamache getting a stop and go. That's the first time we've seen that indicator this season.
Oh, that's going to be a tough break.
He's a little bit up the road from this battle we're seeing, but these drivers will get a chance to jump past him.
Yeah, watching Lafreniere there. And again, another nice livery on that car as he works through the the Snake doing a good job, and you know, like you mentioned, no dive bombs. Everybody's pretty much running a settled race. Obviously, we've seen a couple of incidents and some up over the curves and some problems, but for the most part, some pretty clean driving.
I will say it's intriguing when it comes to Gabriel Lafreniere in terms of seeing his progression, because referred to this a bit during the first round, he runs on multiple different platforms, not just ACC. He runs everything that has a steering wheel. Ovals, he runs it on iRacing. Road courses, runs it here as well as on iRacing, as well as a couple other different sims. He loves to race. Give him that credit.
Well, and you know what? It's the same lap times. You get better with laps. You got to run your laps. That's how you improve.
Medora, meanwhile, keeping an eye on, once again, one of the EGT Motorsport machines. Medora, again, one of the better runs for him so far to start off the season. Very deceptively quiet, we'll say, and we'll say as well, they're still within just about the range of the race leaders, keeping things interesting as Lafreniere makes the pass around the Ferrari.
Nice move.
Back to Medora. The main difference you can see, though, at the same time is you have Boivin, who has the weight penalty, mind you, still in third, but this Lexus still has that little snap of the rear tires that we've mentioned so much out of the corners. And it's cost him a lot of time in turn. Let's take a look at one of the replays meanwhile. We mentioned that pass going on for 30th. How do you get it done to the Casio Triangle? Well, you use the brakes. And as we've seen, that Bentley seems to have some very heavy braking ability.
Yeah, and that's not an easy place to pull off a pass. You've really got to be sure of your braking there, because it'd just be so easy to lock up and just slide right across in front of the other driver.
And I've seen several times in the past too, if a driver's not willing to give you the space once you dive to that inside, it can become a calamity triangle.
Yeah, good on both of them. They really handled that well.
Racine, meanwhile, remember, had some major qualifying issues. He's now battling amongst those in 24th. Suzuki trying to battle for 25th. Jumps up the line.
Just where we see that pass a moment ago took place. Nice aerial shot of that section of the racetrack.
Nice and beautiful, this landscape of the racetrack, I will say, with Suzuka open since the 1960s here in Japan, hosting Grand Prix racing for many years as well. Here's up towards the front. Go ahead.
You know, I was just, and quite a park, amusement park in itself as well around the grounds. It's overall it's a beautiful facility.
Endurance racing that's had different lanes from 8 hours to 10 hours. Both are currently tentatively run 2022 action. You have the Japanese Grand Prix. You also have the GT World Challenge Asia that competes here in the real world. You have several different Japanese events that come here. But also the W Series is scheduled to make its Japanese debut at this circuit in the 2022 as well, interestingly enough.
Once again, we watch these drivers as they work through Spoon Curve up the back straight, and again, about to complete another lap with 40 minutes to go.
20 minutes in. Still trying to find a way around. Moisson is Boivin still. And it almost feels like, as we take a look at the battle going on around 36th, for some of the drivers, this is going to be so critical to think about. Can they try and find a way to jump others in the strategy window, especially in trains like this? Because the 99 seems to be quick until we can't find a way around the pass. It took a while alone to pass the 991. It's not so easy, though, when the 21 doesn't make a mistake.
No, and you know what they say. It's one thing to catch them; it's another to pass them. And Boivin certainly is going to have that challenge in front of him, because at this point they seem relatively equally matched.
Susie, meanwhile, we look at in 25th still. And the interesting thing to think about too is those drivers who pit after the first lap. They are still towards around the 30s and the pylon. The ones who have not had attrition, should say. And I'm curious how they mark out against those who have not taken the pit stop and are going to go long, if not halfway here, like here.
So, and factor your time in, time out, your stop just to take that 1 liter of fuel and get back out again. Whether or not that strategy will work for some of these drivers, it's a matter of okay, where am I when I get back out on the racetrack, and where is everybody shuffled? Oh, look at this!
How about a lot of shuffling going on in the 30s? Grenier amongst those, fighting and not making things easy. 2-3 wide. 2022 BILT driver trying to hold on as they pass on by. The driver serving the stop and hold. That's Jeff Collins now shuffling back to 33rd amongst all that.
Yeah, some good driving, good racing back there. Hard racing between those drivers.
Susie with a bit of a mistake coming up of Degner, meanwhile, to the hairpin.
Yeah, and almost made it look like he wanted to have a look to the inside, but that's not the place you're going to do it there. So they go single file once again. So the 75 is Susie back underway there. Just a little bit of a bobble.
Meanwhile, to Battle Goat Racing we go. Bidden trying to find a way to slice ahead to 13th on the racetrack. This is
I know we talk about not a lot of drafting at that racetrack, but I guess if there's going to be any, it's going to be up that back straight, which really seems to be the part of the racetrack would be good battle now.
Then wants second, forcing a mistake in the grass, contact. We saw him to the left rear, but it's the 99 up to second overall on the racetrack with that move going through the snake.
I tell you, there's just no stopping this driver. He is one talent.
Absolutely incredible pace. Here's the thing that's going to really be testing him, though. 2.5 seconds back, that's 1.2 seconds lost. From that maneuver alone, it's hard to pass at Suzuka. Oh, a look back from Mayer, meanwhile, he thought about a pass too.
Everybody's starting to get a little racy back in those positions for the podium.
Coming up to halfway, right? So that pressure definitely on as we see Mayer try and build the speed up to Spoon.
Everybody wants some BOP added. You want to be on that podium. I don't care about the weight. I want to be on that podium. It's the trophy.
If you want to battle for the championship, you have to take the risk of extra weight to prove you can perform with the extra weight, and in turn battle for the championship.
The Boy Van already pulling away from that battle for third behind him.
Great speed coming out of the corner indeed, and this time going through 130R. Mayer will have to take some time to reset here amongst this battle here. We'll see what the difference is first and second now at the stripe. About even last sector for reference with the 99. New sector dumps.
Go ahead. Yeah,
he actually lost attempt to the race leader.
Yeah, trailed now 2.3. Bourgeois is really doing a great job up front. Got a replay for us here.
Oh, and this is how the pass got set up. Look at that slice.
What a move.
Went for a slip and slide as well through the marbles to the point where he drifted his way, in fact, to complete the pass.
Yeah, that was that contact you mentioned before, but boy, did he ever set that up nicely.
Made it look easy in a place you usually do not see a pass, mind you, here at Suzuka.
Well, and as you start to get into the latter part of the race, too, when you start to step out of line, you have to worry about the marbles as well, but clearly not a factor through that part of the racetrack, but is one of the things you got to think about. Don't get too far to the outside of some of these corners, as the marbles will start to build up on you.
Looking back at Mayer, meanwhile, what can he do at this point, knowing the rhythm pace differential? Because 1 second has been lost already to the 99 since that pass.
Yeah, and I think at this point, he's just got to be patient, I think, is really keep the pressure on and be patient and hope for a mistake in front of him.
Let's take a listen in with Mayer. really feathering that throttle that time before the run to the Casio triangle to try and set the brake.
Yeah, and you see how that was a 6th gear, that 15th corner before Casio. It was a high-speed 15, just feathering the throttle, as you mentioned, and hard on the brakes and down through the gears. And there's that balance again through corner 1 and 2 to the snake. Great shot here as we got a real good battle going on for this position. I got to tell you, Moussan holding on, but Mayer, he's keeping that pressure.
That's also very pivotal. Again, when it comes to drivers, pressurize the mistake is the term. By the way, the lap traffic were predicted maybe around 20-30 minutes to go. It's 33 minutes to go on the clock. And guess what's in front of the race leader? See on the track map.
Yeah, and I tell you, this is also where that cushion of 2 seconds plus helps the leader not have to pressure himself into making a mistake trying to get past those lap cars. You know, obviously don't want to be hung out too long behind them, but he's got that little bit of a cushion to play with.
So get ready to see bushels of blue flags to pop out from the race marshals around the racetrack. Again, these top drivers yet to serve their pit stop sequences here around the circuit.
So at this point, I would say, Justin, it looks like a similar strategy for a lot of these drivers as they held in the first race, holding on to that pit stop towards the end of the race.
And that's the interesting argument. Depending on the track circuit, for some it may be the earlier call to try and pit to avoid traffic. For others, if you know traffic could be a factor, stretch it as long as you can to minimize that lost time. It's intriguing how that is different from track to track.
I believe if I'm not mistaken, a tire change is out of the question because he'll just lose, like, is it not an instant, like basically 30 seconds to do a tire change? Give or take, yeah. So I mean, it's not a, you want to make sure you manage those tires, you know, because all you want to do is get that 1 liter. You don't want to be running in there going, I need tires.
Exactly, and if you don't make sure you're not taking the tires, then you're screaming internally at that point, let's put it that way. Debited, meanwhile, battling for 13th still.
Yeah, Debited up over the rumble strips through Casio there.
Debited indeed. So we take a look. Quietly amongst all this, second in the Pro-Ams, Trepanier. Still inside the top 10 overall. Lawson has pulled away by a few seconds, but he still has a chance to be able to work maybe with Kat Junis and for MK Racing, who first time are seen on screen today, as Alvarez doing the same, a little bit up the road from some as we take a click around the drivers. Approaching halfway, here comes the lap traffic and the blue flags being served on the left side of the racetrack. Moving on by, that is Moisan.
Good shot of some of the cars through the field, as you mentioned there, and I think you're right. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more blue on the sides of the racetrack. There it is again. Lap traffic.
Lap traffic could be a factor at the halfway mark of this one. Who's going to be able to benefit off of it? Who's going to end up losing time by reaching them in the wrong spots? Again, for those tuning in, you're watching EGT3 Challenge Pro competition. At the moment, Bourdois leads overall by about 2.6 seconds. Van for the Pro class. Pro-Am leader is currently Malauson. Take a quick step aside when we come back. More action right after this side by Welcome back once more to EGT3 Challenge Pro competition. Justin Prince, Glenn Bunt with you as we get ready for the final 30 plus minutes, down to a 27 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, 2:41 in sim time. And it's been intriguing so far. For the most part, attrition building up on the second lap. Outside of that, the rhythms being focused on by most drivers. Bourgeois still leads, now 2.7 seconds up. A few seconds behind is this battle for third overall.
Yeah, and we watched that through the side-by-side. It was still some tight, great racing. I thought perhaps Mayer was going to have a couple of chances there. And just taking a look, too, at the track temperature, still, I don't think it's changed much since the start of the race. We're still at 31 degrees Celsius.
Very locked down indeed on those temperatures today. And keep in mind, all of this is while there has been a bit of shuffling with some of the pit stop windows, possibly. Alson is still 8th overall on track, leading the Pro-Am class by a good few seconds over Trepanier. And keep in mind, as you see on the track map, the pit stops are still getting ready to start for some, especially at this end of the racetrack, as the 7-Eleven just came on in for reference, for example. So the window is open, so that may come a factor for some, especially if you go for the undercut, or you try and undercut underneath into Spoon Corner and Spoon Curve. That doesn't work this time for Mayer.
No, he's trying hard. There's no question again, and keeping that pressure on. Looks like I think Landry is back out on the racetrack. I think I don't see him in the pits there now, do I? I think he's back out.
So quick service expected for most drivers for reference here for this one. Marc-Antoine Landry is the reference mark for that 7-11. 76 has also been in for the majority of this run. No undercut call this time. They continue to stretch. Here is Shentag, meanwhile. Remember, Shentag, amongst those who took the early gamble, is 17th on circuit. I believe he's amongst those who has taken a stop already.
Yeah, so he's free and clear and hoping for some advantages in that strategy. There's no question about it.
All while trying to make sure it doesn't run out of gas. It's going to be the critical thing, too. Traffic like this might be able to help him save fuel in theory.
Yeah, with 25 minutes to go, I tell you, when you get down to that end and that needle is starting to fluctuate, boy, does that not make you start to sweat.
And depending on the sim, you might get the full accurate number. You might have an estimated number, depending on the car. There's a reason so many sim teams have a strategist on board. So let's go picture-in-picture in turn. Shentag is on the right side underneath, actually being let go for position, since that is interclass traffic. 24th to Wart, all over the back bumper of a fellow class member. This is Thibodeau, who wants to ride to the right side defensively, and that's not going to be easy for DeWart. He still makes it work, though.
Yeah, up over the rumbles and got it done.
Yeah, Thibodeau did not seem to want to give that initially there.
No, he forced that hard, but didn't work out for him. He had to give up the spot.
Here's a look, meanwhile, at Moison. Moison is now building up a buffer at the end of the run here. Remember, they were near bumper to bumper for about 5-10 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, did something happen that we didn't see? Because, boy, he has definitely gained a little bit of gap there between himself and Mayer.
See if we get a chance to look towards that way as we go to Levike. 18th, this is one of the Bruin drivers. Dealing with the same traffic we've seen moments ago. And the 775 is amongst those looking to try that strategy call possibly for the Pro-Am side. Here's a look, once again, at the train for 12th in reference. I will say this. Gotta love the name, gotta love the look. I think that is a goat on the side of the 44 with the googly eyes, maybe, with the red scheme.
Now you have me looking real hard at that.
He also set one of his best times at the track, a 2:02.8. His best is a 2:02.4 for reference in race trim. Just can't find a way, it seems, around the 7, though. Again, the 7 is a pro driver. Debitten is a Pro-Am driver, which kind of makes things difficult on that factor. He also, however, might have a battle of his own to deal with in class if he doesn't find a way to use the pro driver maybe as a pick here.
Yeah, exactly, because Debitten right now is holding on to that final podium spot and not far behind Landry. I tell you that you're right. If he doesn't, he's got a great battle there and doing a great job. But if he is faster, boy, definitely wants to get around.
That's Tommy Landry for reference. His teammates had that incident early on, remember. Meanwhile, they like not getting the same treatment compared to Shentag. After all, it is the same class this time. You're not going to back off and allow a Pro-Am driver to pass easy. Not
Oh,
so
heck
much.
no. That's bragging rights afterwards.
Yes, indeed.
Good battle. Great battle.
Well, yeah, he's still trying to park the bus a little bit on some of the apexes in this battle. 775 still can't find a way around. Speaking of drivers finding a way around. Give a nay. Is that what a noise the goat makes? The Battle Goat Racing driver thought about it, couldn't get it done as we take a look. Once
not
bounce
quite
around.
enough.
Here's look Shentag. He's now able to pass by more cars meanwhile. Let's talk about race cars.
Oh, beautiful race cars. Shentag, the McLaren, I tell you, that's a gorgeous car.
I mean, art of car is in the name, so it's a picture of a work of art. And it might be a work of art strategy if it works out. That's the thing. Here's the tough part. If you add up all the deltas, that is about 35, 40 seconds back he is currently to the current race leader. That's going to be the tricky thing. Let's take a look at the replay meanwhile. This is what we had seen for the battle for 12. This was nearly done into 130R, and then right about here, he just backs off, it seemed. Actually got squeezed a bit.
Oh.
And then he just late breaks it around for the move.
Okay, there you go.
Have a close call at one corner. Get the respect back from the other side to be able to get the space after the near crash.
Love those replays.
Put on, meanwhile, 24th on circuit with the Air SOP and the Art of Car Machines. Looking back at the train for third. Mayer still trying hard to find a spot, still can't. How frustrating can that be, though, at this point?
Oh, and well, as far back as he was just a couple of laps ago, has really been able to close it back in. And with both of these drivers not having made that stop yet, you got to wonder, are they going to come in together at the same time and continue that battle? I would have to think that if Moissan ducks in the pits, Mir's going to follow.
Might be that interesting mark of who blinks first, indeed. And even then, who puts in the least amount of fuel to try and risk it for the position to save time in the box?
Where you are in your fuel gauge. All comes down to a little bit of fuel management now.
And the critical thing is, guess who's been riding behind that? Mayer with the chance to save fuel from that. Here is a look at Mayer, and when you're riding behind like this compared to being in the front car, you may be able to go a little bit earlier in the break, maybe go for a bit of what some call IMSA braking style, maybe back up on the brake mark, or use a bit of clutch on the entry as some on some platforms do.
Back down through the hairpin. A little bit tighter coming off the corner from Mayer, but trying to get a little bit, maybe a straighter run, but he gets that right up the back end, but has to back off.
Yet again, had to check up for him as he reached him nearly to the back bumper in the middle of the corner through 200R.
Oh, was that a look to the inside? But no, maybe that's just trying to, again, keep him honest.
Something's got to give here at this rate, you'd have to think. As an hour pit stop for Levite this time in the 775. He's in for service. Here's a look for the back end, meanwhile, for the battle for third overall on track. It just seems right there, you see that little bit of grip loss? Just seems a bit too loose, the 991, to be able to get the move.
Yeah.
No blinking to pull on down yet. Here's the onboard for Mayer. Picture in picture, right side from the back end, left side from the onboard.
Oh, great camera work here.
Keep an eye on that wheel coming on these corner exits. You see right there some of the overcorrections.
Yeah.
That's what's really costing them.
It seems a little twitchy, a little darty at times.
This time just some of the bumps factoring in. Right there, wow. Cutting hard to the left in the middle of a right-hander.
Jeez, I almost thought he was going right off on that one. Blue flag's waving.
So they have a Ferrari that appears up the road for lap traffic. Will that be used as a pick, or will they move quickly out of the way? That's the 241 of the track. That's Jeff Collins who gets safely out of the way.
Yeah, nice move. Just get out of the way and let this battle continue. Hey, you know, with 16 minutes to go, I don't know if one thing to look at that leaderboard. It's been shrinking between first and second. Is there enough time?
Yeah, about 1 second picked up over the past 5 so minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Boivin pulled away a lot in the late stages at Bathurst around this point. Really strong in the long run. He did lose some time last sector, though. Back to 2 seconds. That's Mayer. Best run he's had to the Casio Triangle.
Side by side.
And a bit of a pinch.
Oh.
Mayer nearly hits him, and he's going to take the stop.
There you go.
This might be the smart call here. Go for the undercut as he gets the pit speed limiter on.
And that was quite, because he was set up on the wrong side of the racetrack, basically, through that Casio battle and came across into the pits. And I thought for a second, you know, every time we watched that, as the driver on the driver's left came through ahead, but this time maybe he didn't come through ahead because he backed off to make that stop.
See if that decision ends up helping him gain that position in the long haul, as here comes Thomas Lavoie. Trying to dive underneath, and contact! He gets turned!
No.
What a save!
How did he save that?
How is Thomas Lavoie not in the tire barrier? Some damage.
Lavoie?
He does have damage, but my goodness, his race could have been done there, as there's the spot being given for the near turn.
Wow.
That was
a save of the race, no doubt.
That was the save of the season so far.
Yes.
That was Boyer who ended up making the contact, by the way, but it was a bold send in the first place. Meanwhile, where did Solomon come from? Moisson has lost several seconds this lap, it seems.
Well, all of a sudden, Solomon is a factor here, and we're down to 13 minutes. It's crunch time.
And Levica's also had a crash, meanwhile, right near the race leaders. And that track map looks sketchy because 2 drivers may have tried to split that 775. Everything is happening. Can't you tell it's the final minutes? Under 14 minutes.
Think?
Yeah. Solomon. Will he elect to come down? No. He wants to continue to battle. And it looks like, based on the numbers, yes, Bourgeois has now had that cycle around where he's no longer the race leader. Boivin is now up by 7.7 seconds. Is that... We'll have to see how that comes to be with that major swap about on the pylon.
Yeah. Wow. just looking at the track map for their positioning as well.
I almost wonder if it was involving the 775 maybe, because that was where we seen the track map seem to split between the two of them, as mentioned. Solomon trying to find a way to split around here.
Well, this is getting racy. And so it should. We're down to, we're getting close to 10 minutes to go. I mean, everything comes down to a nice long race, comes down to just a few inches in a few minutes.
Solomon over the back bumper, a big checkup. Mador is also back in the conversation as well here.
Yeah, Mador's had a consistent run, hasn't he? He's been just nice pace and always up there, not too far out of the mix, and finds himself again in the top 5 now.
Right in the popcorn seat for this fight as well if it continues to heat up, with drivers trying to pass the 21.
Now, of those three, we just saw everybody, good line with Mador. Did you see how far out he was across the rumble strips into the green paint?
And he's all the way past the green paint.
Yeah, see, I was wondering about that, if he's starting to lose his grip.
Extending the track limits, you can say, as here's Cloutier. Quietly inside the top 10 on track for now.
Oh, a little bit of correction there, too.
A little bit of argy-bargy now with second place in Pro-Am. I've noticed, seen with the pylon shuffling the 991 amongst those who have now taken their pit stop service. As we said, it's 5 seconds back of this.
Oh, what's not to like about EGT3 Challenge Pro racing, huh?
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the replay meanwhile, and this is the replay that I think everyone wants to see. We talked about a massive shuffling. One in the world. Did he clip the rumble strip there for that?
That was, wow. Like, I don't even have an explanation what might have happened there.
He clipped the right side tires, it looked like there, Glenn.
That was about all you could say. Yeah, and it just snapped.
He had a big bumper, and now he's behind by 7 seconds.
And who is that driver? What's that car number leading again?
It is the
in round 2.
Number 99, Boivin.
Didn't we talk about a BOP on that car as well?
30 kilometers heavier.
I told you, these drivers, they figure it out. But he had a little help on that one.
A lot of help. And Solomon not backing down, more pit stops you see. And another penalty, a stop and go, 30-second hold. That is Cloutier who has gotten that penalty, it seems.
Oh, that's tough. When you're sitting there having to deal with those 30-second penalties, it's frustrating. Under 10.
Under 10 minutes to go, down to 9:33 on the clock in particular. Solomon trying to run towards the left side, can't get to the side-by-side yet. Letting them duck on down. We're coming to the very edge of the fuel tank, mind you, for most of these drivers. So keep an eye on drivers shuffling around the pylon. Here is the 63, as mentioned, with that penalty. Well, Solomon getting close. A bit of a block up from Moisson. Another tight call again to the back bumper still. Big bobble once again for the BMW.
Still a good battle between those three. Also, as they cycle through these pit stops, the other thing you want to factor in is when you come out. Like, that's, you can't predict exactly what might happen in front of you as you come out from that pit stop, and just hope it doesn't hold you up in that battle that you're in for position. So that's one of the factors that it might be out of your control, but boy, you sure hope when you come out clean.
The one thing that's a good point to mention from your point on that. We keep mentioning Shentag. He's in a great spot, because of that mistake from Bourgeois. He might cycle here to the top 5 at minimum, if not maybe in the conversation.
Yeah, currently running 12th.
That's only about 20, 30 seconds back now instead of the 40 seconds he had it before.
Yeah, it could be in good shape.
Meanwhile, Solomon going for the send for third. Near contact. He's going the lone way.
Oh, that's a long way around.
He has the better run on the exit. Can't get staying side by side. Picks up the draft. Down the back straightaway. Mador wants to take a peek too into 130R. All single file to the Casio triangle.
Yeah, that was a good try though through Spoon.
You had to try something after being held back for so long. And in turn, not able to take advantage. Last time we seen an undercut call from that, and there's an undercut call from Mador. Helicopter in the bottom right corner. TV view for the main picture. Now on board. Of note, the temperature has gone down for the first time today. It is 1 degree cooler now.
Oh, good. With just about 6 minutes to go, they're finally getting a break.
It comes eventually. But the question is, will Solomon get a break to be able to jump up into third on track? It's been a busy pit stop cycle. Not only the one stop from Mador, but you also have the 77 who has come on in. That's Cut Junis and a few others.
Yeah, it's that time, right? We've got 6 to go. They've got to start factoring in that stop now. Cycle through.
Bonnier is also coming in. Salmon trying to find a way to move on up. And I've noticed the Porsches have been able to go a little bit tighter on the apex out. That may help Salmon try the long way again. Not able to keep side by side this time. Coming through 200R to Spoon.
Yeah, but and he doesn't. Is he going to try the outside again here? I don't think he's close enough this time, but he's not losing much ground by trying that way around. Oh, going to get down the inside this time.
Great exit off the corner with the grip. Side by side down the backstretch.
Drag race now down the back straight.
5.5 minutes to go on the clock.
Just doesn't quite have it, though. He's got to pull back in line.
Both of them have to pit, too. That's the big thing. Only a few laps to go estimated from this point on. Will they both come in? Will one of them try and undercut? Any signs of pit stops again? They're trying to stretch at the very end, but Boivin has elected to use his stop with 5 minutes to go in the 99.
All right, well, now we'll see what happens when he cycles back out onto the racetrack.
Only a few.
These two are... Go ahead. Yep.
I was about to say a few liters at the max going to be needed for these drivers. Essentially, you only need to make it 2 laps.
Top 6 have not stopped.
And the critical thing, Shentag has not cycled in front of Mador or Mayer. In fact,
pardon me,
Mayer
Boivin was in. Yeah, go ahead, your Mayer.
I was about to say Mayer is the first of those who have come into pit so far. The Delta, yeah, I added that up about 30 seconds back. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough based on what we've seen, how some of these drivers have been quick in the box.
Now these two, they're a little bit of battle. They've probably lost themselves a little bit of ground, but if they can get in and get that stop and come out clean, it could still be a great race up front.
Zahn does not want to give this up into the lane.
Any bets this time? They got to come in this time.
They have to. Right on the edge of the tank. Here comes Solomon going to try the cross. Tries to back it up for the second part of Spoon. Can't get there. Big
Single
bubble.
file. Yep. Pretty much the same line from both of them. Come off the exit onto the back straight.
Watch that triangle as well. That's your overall race leader on the racetrack for now. Can Bourgeois find a way to strategize his way 7 seconds back to recover from a massive spin? Moisson. Expect him to come in. The overall race leader is in. Here they go, peeling off. No! Solomon stays out for a lap. He'll try and go in the white flag lap.
Wow! Stretching it right to the 3-minute mark.
2 estimated laps to go around this mark. So Salmon leads the lap now. Alvarez also stretches it in the Bentley. Everybody else has come in a pit. You know who's picked up some spots from all that? Susie has quietly moved up to 12th from the cycle. Keep an eye.
I gotta hand it also. Sorry, go ahead.
Keep an eye, though, on where that 99 is. Look at that. Look at the track map. That is Bordeaux, who cycled in front of Boivin on the track map with this battle in 11th. That is critical. Or nearby, we'll see for sure. Bordeaux now with the update may have been a couple corners now back once it got up to speed off the exit lane.
This is going to be good.
This battle towards the back grouping also heating on up with under 2 minutes to go. And then now to the inside. Trying to go for the drag race once again.
Love that drag race, but is he going to be able to get to the inside? Nope, back in line.
He's been very careful, I've noticed, throughout the day. Down to the final 90 seconds this time around. Expect a white flag for the race leaders. Bitten just not able to get the boost he's looking for behind some of the McLarens. But now as the scoring is updated, the 993 is still the on-track race leader, but the net race leader is still the 99. The 23 placed position driver, the 44, will get 22nd, a big mistake.
Wow, real wide.
That's Thibodeau who goes wide that time and gives it right to Battle Goat Racing. White flag is coming out final time around. Pit stops for the final two drivers who have been able to stretch it. But it's Boivin who has been able to take the race lead back. The gap has extended another second after everything has filed on through. Final time around for the 99.
I tell you, right, cream to the top.
It took some of the attrition to come into play there, but absolutely huge run from him. Mayer, meanwhile, passing on by the drivers completing service. But the 99, it's not over yet. There is a battle in front for position with 3 or 4 lap cars.
Still got to be careful. Keep an eye at that battle and hit your marks.
Remember, the scoring loop will give the full-on update once these drivers fully cycle because Solomon is 5th on track now. After his stop, Solomon only coming out in front of a door. And trouble in front, that's a lap car who spins in front of that battle. That swaps Solomon back around in that spot.
Close.
Meanwhile, the race leader gets the first of the blue flags dealt with in turn.
Yeah, Mercedes steps aside, lets the leader through.
Boivin has a 7-second cushion. Mador, after that scary moment, still battling with Solomon. Looks like he gave the spot back after the near collision, as someone decides to visit the sand.
Pretty close to home free, but not quite yet. The back straight for Boivin.
Taking clicks on through because all of this is with the differences on the cycles and the speeds laid on. Meilson has taken the Pro-Am advantage at the end of the cycle by a significant margin. He's had a strong run, but for Boivin, he'll get the chance to go 2 for 2. The Pro victory and the overall win goes to the 99 at Suzuka.
Great run. Solid effort for Moisan too, as he's coming through soon. And I tell you, that was a great. He was consistent the whole race, the 45.
The undercut does work for Mayer. Meanwhile, Moisan loses the podium to 4th. Solomon finishes in 5th in front of Mador. Shentag, with his strategy gamble, only gets to 7th in the end. But for the Pro-Am side, Alonso able to keep it clean today. The first running Ferrari is the top driver in Pro-Am. He wins for test racing.
They'll be happy with that one.
And that big save of the day is good enough for 10th best for Lavoie. Give him credit overall. Battle on behind for some of the pro drivers as Trepanier had a great chance to win the Pro-Am class, slipped on back late. Tommy Landry, give him credit, 3rd in the class, finishes 15th overall as well. As Bourdon ends up getting to 17th by the end, albeit we see a little bit of scrapes since the last time we've seen that artful car. Marc-Antoine Landry also some good battling here as the last of the drivers compete. The Frene, give him a shout out. He was in the 30s a little while ago. He'll round out the top 20 overall as the rest of the field says hello to the checkered flag.
Oh, great race.
Great race from top to bottom. Just about a majority of the field finishing on the lead lap in the end. Some attrition, yes. A major mistake deciding the pro class, but in the end, the drivers who kept it the cleanest and the most consistent were 1 point away, or some others like the 63, major penalties in response.
And you know, you mentioned the amount of drivers finishing on the lead lap on a short circuit on Suzuka. Hey, great effort by everybody.
So with that, that closes things out here from Suzuka. Your final thoughts on how things broke down here today in Japan?
You know, I mean, if it weren't perhaps for that big mistake, maybe we weren't talking about a repeat winner. But the cream did rise to the crop in the end. He held his own, and good for Boivin. But I'd say great race, all around great race.
The next race goes to Zolder. Your thoughts on that facility, because that's a track with a lot of tight passing zones.
I think we're going to see some bumping and banging.
Especially for those who watched international action in the NASCAR competition, bumping and banging was the name of the game. Don't be shocked to see it this week. But we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in for today's action here from Suzuka. Once again, we'd like to give a shout out to those tuning in from across the world. With that, you've been watching EGT3 Challenge Pro competition for my co-announcer tonight in Glenn Butt. For the rest of our crew, my name's Justin Prince saying so long, enjoy the rest of your evening. Once again, congratulations to your overall race winner, Boivin, for the overall victory, and Meilson, point away for the Pro-Am victory. Congrats.